Welcome to another edition of Ipsos's Creative Corner, brought to you by Creative Excellence. This month's theme is definitely, certainly a hot topic and debated in many boardrooms or on virtual screens. And it's about the missed opportunity of distinct brand assets. And in this particular Creative Corner, it will be specifically about sound. So let me start off by just introducing myself. I'm Shaun. I lead Creative Excellence at Ipsos. That's everything to do with advertising research. And I have three great people with me today. And I will ask each of you to introduce yourselves. And I will start with you, Maria Elisa. Maybe you can say a few lines about yourself and what you do.
Sure, I'm Maria Elisa Carvajal. I'm currently the Vice President of Global Oral Care at Colgate-Palmolive.
Excellent. Roscoe?
Thanks, Shaun. I'm Roscoe Williamson. I'm the Global Creative Strategy Director at MassiveMusic.
And Adam?
Yes, thanks, Shaun. Adam Sheridan, and I'm the Head of Products and Analytics at Creative Excellence at Ipsos.
Excellent. So great to have you here, guys. Especially excited to talk about this topic. And as you know, Adam and his team a while ago did a great analysis on more than 2,000 ads in our database, and found some really interesting findings relating to the power of sound. And specifically, this was a deep dive into brand distinctive assets. And Adam, you wrote a paper called The Power of You, which was interesting because it was the first time, I think, we had actually gone beyond actually just finding out how distinctive assets work, but actually the actual strength of them and their effects, and which ones are the most effective to leverage and use. And of course, when this paper was published, we got a lot of mileage out of the paper. There was a lot of interest. And I think, Roscoe, then you found out about our paper and saw some of the findings that Adam spoke about, which is why we're here today, which is awesome. And Roscoe, you and Adam you've published as well your own paper, and I believe a book on the topic, and you guys have been collaborating on this topic. So with that, Adam, what do we know about the effects of music and sonic cues, and how can this help in delivering more effective advertising today?
Yeah, thanks, Shaun. It's a great question to kick us off. And the sonic assets, they are in of themselves a distinctive brand asset, so a means by which a brand can signal that their brand is in the ad itself, either via visual or, in this case, auditory cues. So without naming or speaking the brand itself. And the research that we did, just as a recap, was to cross-reference creative effects we observe in the ad testing that we do with metadata of if brand assets were present or not. And we did indeed find on average that there's a strong relationship between higher brand attention effects in our creative testing approaches and the presence of more frequent brand asset use than not. So that was a really interesting finding in of itself. However, when we then dig deeper into specific asset types, what we found actually was that sonic cues, sound assets, are actually have the strongest relationship with brand attention effects, stronger than really anything else, any other visual kind of asset, even brand characters, which is a very strong asset that we observed. And conversely, what we saw in our data set, the 2,000 ads we included in that research, is that only 6% of the cases actually used sonic brand cues. So with these two pieces of data in hand, one being that they have the strongest relationship with creative effects, and at the same time, they're one of the less used brand asset types, suggests to us that there's real business value, real creative effects that are being left on the table, and brands might want to consider exploring the opportunity of developing sound assets for their campaigns.
So that's really, really interesting. There are obviously what you've listed as there are massive effects to be gained from investing in music and sonic logo production. And just to ask the question now to Roscoe, on these data points and other points from your research, what have you found from your own research when it comes to sonic assets and brand assets?
Yeah, I mean, we found lots of interesting materials relating to the building of brand equity through sound. You know, we've done some of our own primary research in the Netherlands to show the effectiveness of certain sonic logos in that region, and the results are really, really promising. We've worked with certain clients like O2, for example, in the UK to track spontaneous recognition over a relatively short amount of time, and very happy with it. So in terms of the sort of research and data side of it, it's still at a fairly nascent stage, which I think is quite exciting, but the results are really, really promising. And I'm sure we'll go on to talk about some of the specific results for Colgate as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Roscoe. So Maria, Elisa, so you've obviously been working on this, and we'd love to hear your perspective from a marketer on this topic, and what you believe is important for Colgate specifically and yourself.
Yeah, when we started this journey, what happens is that we're in over 100 countries, as you know, and as our media shifted from traditional to digital, you have a lot more channels where your brand appears, and you have a lot more people in different countries touching your brand and your assets. So the more consistent you are, the better. So we had done a brand experience guidelines with the brand archetype, the visual guidelines, the voice, but we really wanted to go a step further and better encode memories. And as you know, sound, you know, the songs that you remember, they bring memories real quickly. It's able to activate those mental networks. So we engaged with MassiveMusic and Roscoe and his team on a sonic asset process, and it was really successful for us.
So the two of you have developed the sonic asset together now, which you've mentioned, and just how I would be interested, and I'm sure many people would be interested in how you actually got to the asset.
Well, I have to confess, it's an uncomfortable journey from the beginning, because I don't know anything about music. I can barely sing.
Yeah.
And you know, on the other areas of voice and visual and what the brand idea through a marketing career, you do get a lot of exposure. But sound is like, how can we do that if we don't know anything about sound? And the biggest advice I have is get a good partner and just get on the sailboat and let them drive. So we're a small team, very diverse, because we have different nationalities, of course, different genders, different ages. And then we really trusted Massive, and they took control of the timeline of the sessions. And it's not so much how much do you know about music, which was my uncomfortable thing, but more how does music make you feel? And in this particular case, we had a very clear brand idea, which is Colgate is the champion of optimism. And not just optimism as an outlook, but as a force of action. Optimism in spite of adversity that causes action, optimism in action, we call it, to change the world for the better. So what does optimism sound like? I think we can all agree on that. So we were listening to tunes, we were all rating and then seeing which ones took us there. So when you answer the question that way, how does music make you feel? It's much easier.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Roscoe, from your perspective, how did you get to that? I mean, it's lovely to hear Maria Elisa speak about that, but I can imagine from your side to actually produce that and come up with that sonic cue, that's part of the magic, right? And to get that exact sound that's perfect for the brand, that's now gonna, as Maria Elisa was explaining, then gonna hopefully resonate with consumers out there. How was that journey, and how did you get to that?
Yeah, thanks. Well, Mary, it's so lovely to hear your perspective on it, and I'm so glad that it went so well. But I think, you know, it all starts with the first phase, which is the research and strategy. You know, we have to do our due diligence in terms of what the market sounds like, all the possible areas where companies might be using music and sound, and that goes well beyond just content, right? because we really think about creating the sonic branding system for now, but also how it can flex into the future. So understanding what the competitive landscape sounds like, and we were really, all the stakeholders were really on board with pushing this sound and doing something that didn't sound like anything else. Was one of the main things. And then, as Marie-Lisa said, we go through this mood boarding process where we all evaluate what is right and what is wrong in terms of sound, and that can be highly subjective. But we have a few tools. We developed one called Massive Bass that lets us pick music that's been actually evaluated by 500,000 people to say, actually, this piece of music sounds innovative and this doesn't. So that helps a little bit remove some of that subjectivity. And then, then we go through the process of having, once we have those ingredients and we have a good strategy of where this sound needs to flex, and that's when we go into the kitchen and we start working with the composers and the sound designers. And that's really where, the fun bit begins. But again, it was a very collaborative process. And both Red Fuse and Colgate-Palmolive, that group was really valuable.
Awesome. And just thinking of the role of research in helping identify the right sonic cues, and then I guess at a later stage, making sure that you're tracking and understanding the performance of those cues. Any point of view or perspective on that?
So we didn't use any research as we were developing it. We are a very data-driven company and make all decisions based on data, but in the development of the sonic branding, it was really what the team, the agency, Massive, and Colgate felt. However, what we've done now is started to track. So we've only been out there 9 months, but early signals are quite positive. We did a study with Ipsos. With Ipsos, we do our advertising tracking, and we did an overlay for sound, and more than 40% of people in 4 different countries recognize it. So it's being recognized even after only 9 months. And I think my most positive surprise came this week, an article by Mark Ritson in the UK, where they talk about sonic brands in the UK, and we were looking for McDonald's. That was our North Star. That's when we started the project. We told Massive we want to be McDonald's, and they have been at it for 18 years, and they were 24 in the list. And Colgate already appeared as 29. So we were very surprised. We were like, wow, we're four spots away, and we've only been there for 9 months. So quite pleased by the early signals that it is being recognized already after such few months on air.
I mean, and it's been fantastic to work with Ipsos and the team at Colgate to track the assets. And I think it's kind of important to mention, and because it doesn't get the limelight often, but there's actually 2 types of assets that we're working with. Right, you've got the Sonic logo, which I'm sure we'll hear at some point in this session. But there's also what we call they're the brand DNA, right? And this is the main piece of music that we can adapt into different styles of music. But there are signature Colgate pieces within it, so chord progressions and musical motifs that very much sound like Colgate. And so the strategy is, deployment with as much as that branded music, plus the Sonic logo as well as we can. And then it's very interesting to assess how, if you think about Sonic branding health as a sort of metric, i.e. the most healthy would be where it's relevant, branded music and logo used correctly, and then you can look at that maybe versus media spend as well and the Ipsos data, and then suddenly we really can start to get a good picture of how this is working. So I'm really looking forward to building that out over time. Yeah,
this was a very big piece of work because we have sound in a lot of assets, not just what we air, but for example, professional communication. We do a lot of webinars and videos. We have educational content, how to brush your teeth. And of course, you cannot put the same music in every single piece of asset. So with this brand DNA, we're able to flex depending on if it's informational, if it's authoritative, if it's playful, and for our different sub-brands with different targets. So that allows us that flexibility, yet consistently creating a sonic DNA that people recognize.
And just if I could pick up, on your earlier comment as well, Roscoe, about data sources, and in a way, I suppose it's the triangulation of data to give you signals of success. And you mentioned branded music, and outside of our tracking that we've been doing with you guys, one key stat that might be interesting for our viewers to hear is that if you actually invest in branded music, so not a sonic asset, but branded music versus no music use at all, you have a plus 11% on average relationship with our sales validated metric, the creative effect index. So just, it's, as you said earlier, it's like all these different signals coming together, like the greater likelihood to be in the top third of the database if you have a sonic cue, the plus 11% on the CEI if you have branded music that you invest in, that you develop rather than just license. It's just interesting for me to hear that. And then you've got the tracking as well, bringing all that together to inform and understand success, but also development.
Fantastic, and I think it'll be. I'm really excited to see how it develops. As you said, Maria Elisa, you're in the first phases and the early phases of your journey, and I think it's just starting, as you probably very well aware. And I think with consistency and continuity with a great brand like Colgate, it's going to be interesting to see where you can take this. But I can imagine there are many marketers who haven't yet developed their own distinctive music and sonic assets and are probably wondering, what should we be doing to get to this point? So just a closing question for the group, and whoever wants to go first can say, just what advice would you give them?
I mean, I think, Maria Elisa, you should start. I'm really interested to hear, actually, from your experience, what you would say.
Yeah, no, I think that, again, it's all about memory structures and having that high visibility, high emotional connection, and music is something that really drives emotion and, again, really triggers or sparks memory structures. You just need to get a partner that knows about this, that understands. For me, this is one of the processes where we're completely blind on how to do it, and we just trusted our partner, and they took us through the journey. Again, there was no consumer research on the journey, so just trust and how does music make you feel. And that it worked for us in this case, and we have early signals that it's working. And we want to see 10 years from now where the eye is McDonald's and see, if Colgate can be more recognized than the McDonald's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from my perspective, just obviously choose your partner wisely, do your due diligence. There are a lot of there's a lot of sonic branding agencies popping up at the moment. I'll say no more. But also, really spend time on creating that brief and bringing in the breadth of stakeholders that are needed to make a project successful. I think that's one of the most important points, and something that we did in quite a lot of depth with Colgate is to really interview a wide range of stakeholders to understand their challenges with music and sound and the potential opportunities, and then you can really connect the dots. So yeah. Excellent.
Adam, any final words?
Perhaps just to repeat what I said earlier, if we look at the evidence, it is a missed opportunity. It seems that marketers, maybe understandably, have been very focused on visual cues, visual assets in a non-skippable, thumb-stopping world, and they've maybe overlooked the power of audio, the power of sound. And I think the stories that we're hearing from Maria Elisa and Roscoe just demonstrate that there's real value to be gained, and perhaps a good experience as well to just learn more about how you can build those memory structures and add more value to your advertising. So that would be my only advice from a research perspective, is based on what we see, if you haven't started, you should.
Excellent. Those are great final words from you, Adam. So it's been a great Creative Corner, very, very exciting, and we could probably talk for another hour on the topic, but I'd like to thank you, Maria, Elisa, and Roscoe, for joining us today and sharing your perspective on this fabulous journey that you're on at the moment, and really great work that you've already done. And I look forward to seeing where this will end. It's exciting. It's really exciting. So thank you very much to both of you.